Hi, it's Dr. Catherine D. Harris again, English 10, Great Works of Literature, Techno-Literature. This is our next lecture on Volume 1 of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I want to go over some elements, not just of the Gothic, but here we start to get an introduction to technology, humanity, good versus evil. So Volume 1 is set up in a series of letters from Robert Walton to his sister. It sets the background. It's very British because it starts off with Robert Walton lamenting the fact that he's a failed poet, but he also is a man of literature and letters. He's privileged. He's also an explorer. So he has a way to go from being this very literary man into being this very adventurous man. He's familiar with imagination, creativity, and poetry, which is really important because it signals passion, which we're going to see in Victor Frankenstein. He seeks equal companionship and finds one in Victor Frankenstein when he goes by his ship miraculously. Now, Victor Frankenstein is foreign. He has no name until a character addresses him in the letters. It's very far into the novel itself. His father names him in a retrospective narrative. He signals himself as the Byronic hero defined before in the previous lecture. He has no guidance except by the men of science around him. And I'm using our Longman edition, second edition, and I'd like to go over to Volume 1, Chapter 1, page 21. And when we talk about this idea of guidance and education, Mary Wollstonecraft, Mary Shelley's mother, really believed in education, but I think that here is a critique of education, that it needs to be done properly. And what we get is no guidance by Victor's father, and then also his mentors don't take care of him either. So power and knowledge are a very can be a very demented thing for Victor. So on page 21, he says, "No youth could have passed more happily than mine. My parents were indulgent and my companions amiable. Our studies were never forced, and by some means we always had an end placed in view, which excited us to ardor in the prosecution of them. It was by this method, and not by emulation, that we were urged to application. Elizabeth was not incited to apply herself to drawing, that her companions might not outstrip her, but through the desire of pleasing her aunt by the representation of some favorite scene done by her own hand." So Elizabeth, we find out, is encouraged to draw, but not so much Victor and Henry Clerval. And when we continue in this particular volume and in this particular chapter, we go down to the bottom of page 21. It says, "Natural philosophy is the genius that has regulated my fate." Natural philosophy. Natural philosophy, in the footnote, it says, is science at this particular time. Genius is a divine spirit, but we also saw from the definitions of daemon, D-A-E-M-O-N, that there's a genius in there as well. But I'm not sure that Victor Frankenstein is an evil genius just yet. Do you? It continues, "I desire, therefore, in this narration to state those facts which led to my predilection for that science. When I was 13 years of age, we all went on a party of pleasure to the baths near Thonon. The inclemency of the weather obliged us to remain a day confined to the inn. In the house, I chanced to find a volume of the works of Cornelius Agrippa. I opened it with apathy. The theory which he attempts to demonstrate and the wonderful facts which he relates soon changed this feeling into enthusiasm. A new light seemed to dawn upon my mind, and bounding with joy I communicated my discovery to my father. I cannot help remarking here the many opportunities instructors possess of directing the attention of their pupils to useful knowledge which they utterly neglect. My father looked carelessly at the title page of my book and said, 'Ah, Cornelius Agrippa, my dear Victor, do not waste your time upon this. It is sad trash.'" And that's it. That's the only oversight that we give. And by the way, that's the first time that we have Victor named in this novel, 22 pages into it, and not before that. He doesn't introduce himself to Walton as, "Hi, I'm Victor Frankenstein. Let's shake hands." So we have a problem here with Victor. He's running loose, looking for knowledge. He might have been tabula rasa, as the way Mary Wollstonecraft wanted, but it seems to me that Mary Shelley is critiquing this unbridled enthusiasm, this passion for education, and it's going to lead Victor astray. On the next page, in 23, we really start to see Victor talking about ghosts and devils and this sense of passion and the supernatural and the magical. Studies for him became part of the imagination, and this is going to be an issue throughout the rest of Volume 1 because it's passion that incites him to create the creature. And he's only 15 years old, we have to remember, as we peruse through Volume 1 and into Chapter 2. We see Volume 1 concludes with a domestic description, talking about electricity, a new invention on page 24. He says, the catastrophe of this tree excited my extreme astonishment, and I eagerly inquired of my father the nature and origin of thunder and lightning. He replied, electricity. As if it's a brand new invention. Now this starts Victor thinking. And this is also the genesis of every single movie we've ever seen. The "it's alive" moment. Now here is where I would like you to pause in this particular lecture, and I'd like you to go start a blog post. And here's what I would like you to do. In that blog post, this is a very brief part of it. It's going to be a multi-part blog post. In that "it's alive" moments, in all of the films that we saw, the Branagh version and also the Thomas Edison silent film version, how does technology, and in what form is technology relevant to the development of Victor, not the creature? How does it help Victor develop into the character he is when he meets Robert Walton? Go ahead, go over there. I'll start up again with the next lecture series, Lecture 3.